Today we're going to be talking about stems, which ones you need to be printing, how to do it, how I do it, my workflow through all of my hardware, and a whole bunch more. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, Cole Caparoon here. Thank you so much for stopping by for another video. Now, my last video was going over DAW bus routing, how to use buses, when to use buses, and then the video before that was going over my mix bus. There's the ultimate mix bus tutorial, and in both of those videos there were a ton of comments talking about how to print stems and how you guys do it and how it might be difficult for me to do it because of the hardware and because of my lack of bus routing that I use when I'm mixing a song. And so I thought, let's just make a video on it. So this is just about everything you need to know about printing stems. Now, the first thing that we need to clear up is the difference between stems and tracks. This is really, really, really important because a lot of people have this wrong. It is very common for people to say that they need the stems when they actually mean tracks. So let's just clear it up. Stems refers to a group of tracks printed into a single stereo file. For instance, a drum stem is all of the drums printed into a stereo left and right file that you put on a single fader. A vocal stem is all of the vocals grouped together and printed into a stereo left and right file that is on one single track or fader. A guitar stem is all of the guitars. Maybe there's 40 of them in a song. It's all of them printed down to a stereo left and right. These are stems. Now, what a lot of people call stems is actually tracks or the multi-track. This is where you have access to all of the individual tracks. Your kick drum, your snare drum, all your individual toms, your overheads, your bass guitar, your synthesizer, your sub bass, your 808s, your individual vocal, lead vocal, the backing vocals, a harmony, another harmony, another harmony. These are tracks, not stems. There is absolutely nothing more confusing than when someone requests stems and I send them 5 or 6 or 7 different stems of all the different music groups in their song, and then they're like, no, didn't this song have over 100 tracks? And I'm like, whoa, 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 that's not what you asked for. So stems are referring to groups of tracks on a single print. Tracks, or the multi-track as it is sometimes called, is all of the individual tracks still all separated out. Okay, now that we got that cleared up, let's talk about what stems are most common and what most people need when they ask you to print stems. Now, this kind of starts from way back in the day on jingles, and it was all for sync. And it was very common for a long time, still is today, it's still what I print, to want the full mix, and then to want an instrumental, which is 0 vocals, and then to want what's called a TV mix, which is all the instrumentals, all the background vocals, but no lead vocal, and then a lead vocal. So then what this let people do is, on a TV commercial, they would think about like the Bud Light commercials, the Real Men of Genius. Like that's a full song. And so what would happen is they would take the instrumental stem or the TV stem, and then they would delete or mute the lead vocal during the voiceover. And this is why they wanted that layout, so that way during voiceover they could either just have the instrumental or get rid of the lead vocal so it wasn't distracting from the dialogue of the commercial. Now, since this is a very commonplace need for TV commercials or any sort of commercials, I still do this. When I'm delivering stems to somebody, there's always an instrumental, there's always a TV, which is just a lead vocal mute, and there's always a lead vocal a cappella. So that is where I start with the stems that I deliver to clients when they ask for stems. Now, I'm in kind of an interesting use case here because I use sync music all the time. Every piece of music you hear in these videos is from a sync library. And so I download music all the time, and I see what stems are available for every piece of music, and often I will mix and match different stems to be appropriate for what I'm trying to do here in these videos. So, speaking as someone who sends stems all the time for a ton of songs, thousands of songs, and someone who has made hundreds and hundreds of videos and uses sync music in my videos, here's what else I deliver in addition to the instrumental, TV, and a cappella. What I find that most people are happy with is a drum stem or an all percussion stem, a bass stem or a bass guitar, or if it's synthesizers, bass synthesizers, whatever the low-end melodic thing is in the song, that needs to be all on its own separate stem. And then just grouping the rest of the instruments together. A key stem, whether it is piano, organ, whatever all the keys are, that can be grouped together in a single stem. Whatever all the guitars are, that can be grouped together in a single stem. Depending on the song, sometimes it's advantageous to go ahead and have an acoustic guitar stem and an electric guitar stem if there's a lot of parts of each of them. Some people would like to be able to separate that out. And you've already printed the acapella lead vocal stem from the earlier ones that we talked about. Recap, you want an instrumental, a TV mix, an acapella lead vocal only mix, a drum stem, a bass stem, a guitar stem, a key stem, and a background vocal stem. So 8 stems is kind of the baseline. And this will change based on the song and based on the arrangement of the song. Sometimes there's no background vocals in a song. Sometimes there's no acoustic guitar in a song or no electric guitar in a song. Sometimes the guitars are just like, it's fine to group them together in this use case. So this will change, but those 8 stems is pretty much the starting point for stems. So let's talk about workflow and how I print stems. Now, in the last video about bus routing, I talked about how there are some people who have, you know, a kick bus and a snare bus and a drum bus and a bass bus, even though bass is only one track, and a guitar bus, acoustic guitar bus, electric guitar bus, a key bus, vocal bus, even though a lead vocal is only one track, and on and on and on. And a bunch of you in the comments were talking about you do this for printing stems. And that is something that, to be perfectly honest with you, is completely outside of my peripheral because I mix with hardware. So it is possible in some DAWs, when you are setting this submixing up the right way, for you to offline bounce, which means not listening through the song, all of your stems simultaneously with a single pass. And that's awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that's really, really awesome. And that is a wonderful use case to subgroup everything out to be able to bounce all your needed stems that way. Kudos to you guys for showing me something that I hadn't considered. I work in Pro Tools. Pro Tools can't do that anyway, and I mix on hardware, so I wouldn't ever be able to do that anyway. But it's a use case that I completely was blind to because it's not how I work. So thank you guys for commenting all of that. It's very informative. So the first thing is, since I mix with hardware, there is no offline bounce. I have to listen through the song every time I want to print a version of the song or a stem. This is just one of the downfalls of mixing with hardware. It just is what it is. And believe me, if I could do what I do in the box, I would do what I do in the box. But so far, I haven't been able to. I can't get the sounds that are in my head out the speakers without a certain amount of hardware, and that's why it exists. Now, just like I talked about in the last video, I group all of my tracks. So there's always a drum group and a bass group and an acoustic guitar group, and whatever instruments there is a group created that controls all of them. So all I have to do when it comes time to bouncing stems is either mute or solo what I'd like to hear and then bounce the song, unfortunately, in real time. Now, I will say most of the time I get away with about 6 stems, even though 8 is like kind of the maximum, because usually a song, it doesn't have any acoustic guitar or it doesn't have any electric guitar, or, you know, there's some concession to be made there. Maybe the only keys in the song is the bass synthesizers. So that means I have to listen through the song usually about 6 times. And most songs are 3 minutes-ish. So 6 times 3, you know, it's 18 minutes. It usually takes me around 20 minutes to print stems for a song. This doesn't bug me. Now, if someone wants the song tracked out, where they want everything separate, the kick and the snare and the bass guitar and each individual guitar part and each individual vocal, that takes an astronomical amount of time, and I charge for that. Because you don't need that. Most people don't actually need that. If they want that, it's because they're just satisfying their own, it's just something that I charge for. Now, getting super off into the weeds about this, there is a technical difference between stems and the actual mix. When I deliver stems and you put them all together, it is not quite the same as the actual mix. And it's because of how it's hitting my mix bus differently. So when I solo up the drums, my mix bus compressor and my signature pre's and whatever all saturation I have on my mix bus, it's not saturating or compressing in the same exact way that the whole mix would. It's just reacting to the drums. But when I solo the lead vocal and I print through the mix bus, it's not really reacting in the same way because there's no drums triggering any of that. It's a thing that is a very subtle difference, and there are some very, very clever people who have created very complicated workarounds to this exact thing, where they're side chaining everything so that way the mix bus reacts exactly the same regardless of what all is. I don't do any of that because at the end of the day, as someone who uses music for sync on a multiple days a week basis, I don't care about that. I just need the vibe of the music to come across. Is it exactly the same, like reverse the polarity and it'll all cancel out as the stereo print? No, probably not, but it is by far close enough in my opinion, and I've never had any complaints about the way that I do it. So drop me a comment and let me know what you think and how you approach this. If those of you that print stems constantly, I would love to hear your thoughts, because honestly, you guys pointed out some really good stuff in the last video that I hadn't considered, and I very much appreciate that. Sometimes I learn from you guys, and I love it when that happens. But while you're down there leaving a comment, don't forget to hit all the links in the description for all the gear that I use, all my mix bus. Every piece of gear that I use is linked in the description down below. So be sure to check that out, and anytime you guys need any piece of musical gear, you can jump on any video of mine and click on any link in the description of any video, and once you're on the site, you can purchase anything that you need. And when you do that, it goes a long ways to help support this channel, help me keep making videos like this. Those links go to Sweetwater. So thank you so much, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video and for sponsoring just about all my videos. And I really, really appreciate you guys using the links when you need to purchase stuff. It means a lot to me that so many of you support the people like Sweetwater who support me. It's a massive, massive reason why I'm able to just keep churning these videos out like this. And so I really appreciate you guys, and thank you to Sweetwater. If you've made it this far in the video and you are not subscribed yet, I feel like I've earned your subscription or at least a thumbs up. I appreciate it very much. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.